Hello, agus fáilte bhlá oribh go trí seascad. An program ag BBC Alba hadal go críoscíalch in the moranich ingantach an in sùil spórs na Halba. Is me Iona Ballantyne agus ha mi tola tirira go bhfuil sean cluicheadair ball-coise na Halba Suzanne Lappin arás colrooms in stiùidio. Program na heiche noch, ha sin brain Katie Drain agus Fiona Keir gus fein amach mar a ha camanachd ar a bhí cúmal taithrí cóirseach an tron na pandemic. Cúteach Cluinnidh sin bhór na karate, Niamh Junner muna h-amasan échgus an spórs. Ach an táiseach an tam sùil háirstearás ar an dagéim dearbhaidh me géireadh ag Alba son euro ficit sa ga siad a fiachain rí críocha le brac.
Agus dés an ocean na fine fall off she is the muy dish dal kan alleen at you clicky shove a Kirsty Hansen nur gaf cleachaid suring agus an Cuthbert of Alna chin is day agus tube na broke I shall she is gan ocean agus vashin chidach mar a year to is an Alba Lucy Graham Sadash Lizzie Arnott who got kind of first the cool of the agus the traps Martha Thomas go for the still account agus Alba in the Dara line agus picking us Vinna Cherichid in the cloth. Birds. The upper Ashko Caroline Weir has the doll. Jiki Shachat Ejik lay hick. Oh, up the tull of a shin for Caroline Weir. Chidach a short a tull. Hi Hokomisaka the Iano. Caramella, Kirsty Hansen, agus le chasclí a the scuapig is the art gan an ocean had the nischief frasig is the na dh'Alba bh gach túb has gan a léad a rún agus Alba céad an hoiseach. Fiechan dú, díos trochu agus carama seo is an a goic of dh'Alba. Agus the nish t-seachdain bh dara urt. Hansen le here there bachília dash agus ha I vrac agus the ishal agus ha a cork of dh'Alba a Alba. Bert hokal gan a fast chu lappe bow agus at the dh'Alba line Lizzie Arnott the dh'Alba by muy again as here le a rain magedig agus fashin me you no with an Cuthbert to the east the she is the line flee. Ma Sua Selene, Suliaco as the books at Juval Kuchaka is Hookchaka Lemsley. I guess hard to the Shakatur line. Sneaky shot all starts the tune that Koramashostalker. Going to something that finish say Guyan. When a spoch that is Shachat in Mo is on. A noch of dh'Alba yen a naiche. Oh, I is dh'Alba line. Martha Thomas leis an nui of dh'Alba agus shall she is the two of first have put into Maria Macau that yen a mayun sin. Natalie Rossa. Hogala stays and Jane Rossa is actually that a dh'Alba line. A Jake Turl on the Alba. One of these now, of course, you think in Maunlish, Mauladash, Capetta, it's hard to tell the cow. Well, and you shouldn't have done the ordinary, but you know the Horror, and Gazana Capetta. And now he's through again. He's had Portugal at Hosha. So Shinma, but Jacinto, Marlasa, Moshe. I guess that Chile Gadash, I guess that they Dara line. A Kenya Gedig. Here's Tatiana Pinto, I'm assuming about Chinestai.
Suzanne, disappointing seems to be the word that we keep hearing. A disappointing tournament, a disappointing game on Tuesday. Is that something you would agree with too?
Yeah, you know, I think going into that group, you know, when it was first drawn, I've said it many times, you know, Scotland in my eyes were the favourites, you know, having came off the World Cup, you know, disappointment of that, but, you know, they proved over there how they can, you know, capable they are at that level. You know, I think to, you know, obviously do so well against Cyprus and the Albanians, but to come up short, you know, twice against Finland and twice against Portugal, you know, it's something that the team really have to, you know, work on and focus on going into, you know, other qualifying campaigns.
Do you think being favourites and being that top seed would have affected them mentally and maybe added on that pressure that they weren't used to?
No, I don't really think so, you know, because if you look at the team, you know, there's top quality players there. There's people that, you know, have won medals in Scotland. There's people that are playing for the top teams in England, you know. They are used to pressure and pressure situations. And, you know, to be fair to the girls, it's their performances over the last few years and, you know, how well they did at the World Cup that's put that pressure on them. And that's where ultimately we want to be as a nation. You know, it's said it many times, but it's just the fine margins, you know, when you get against top level opposition, you know, sometimes it's not just about what you do with the ball, it's what you do off the ball as well, you know, it's how organised you are as a team. You know, when you think back to some of the goals that were lost, it's, you know, it's moments of lapse in concentration, you know, it's moments at the other end of the pitch, you know, the big chances, not converting them, you know, these things come back to haunt you when you're playing against, you know, elite teams, and you know, it's that has been the difference ultimately in this campaign.
Well, you have just touched on it there. I mean, you were co-commentating with BBC Alba on the past two games against Cyprus and Portugal. What, as a whole, did you make of their performance? You
know, Cyprus, you know, I think, you know, the games meant nothing, but, you know, to the girls, and, you know, I know if I was in the setup, the games would have meant a lot. You know, they knew that the campaign was gone, but I think to themselves they wanted to prove, you know, that they deserved and they should have, you know, qualified out the group. You know, Cyprus, we all fancied them to, you know, score a few goals against them, and they did that. You know, the confidence looked high. They were queuing up to score goals, lots of different goal scorers. You know, they put in a really good performance on Friday, but it was obviously, you know, you had to caveat that with, you know, obviously they were playing against Cyprus, who had never scored a goal in the campaign. So, you know, then you came on to Tuesday. You know, I did fancy them, to be honest. You know, with that, you know, I don't know if revenge is the right word, but, you know, they wanted to make amends for not qualifying. You know, I thought they started the game really positively, really well. But again, you know, I had that in the back of my mind that, you know, they hadn't converted any of the 3-4 chances that we've seen. And, you know, as soon as you do that, you know, you think the longer the game goes on, Portugal got the goal, and as I said at the time, they are the masters of holding on to a lead. You know, credit to them. You know, it looked as if, you know, their game plan from then on in, you know, went according to plan, and then they got the sucker goal at the end to make it 2-0. Well, against Cyprus on Friday, like we said, it was a high-scoring game, 10-0 for Scotland. At one point you did think, could there be more? Are they going to touch the record that they did previously? I think it was 1999, 17 goals against Lithuania. Yeah. We do have the picture here because there are some memorable faces in that squad. Yeah. Yeah, no, I've seen a lot of chat about that on Friday. I don't know if it had been in the girls' minds at all. You know, I think they'd have just been focusing on, you know, getting that confidence up ahead of Tuesday's game, which we knew was always going to be the tougher game. But, you know, that squad you allude to with the 17-0, a lot of, you know, pioneers for the women's game in there. You know, a lot of people who helped change women's football in this country, and they'll be, you know, I'm sure they'll be delighted their record's still intact. Well, just going back to Tuesday against Portugal, but I guess across the tournament as a whole there have been a lot of avoidable goals. Yeah, you know, 100%. You know, I think when that goal against Finland went in, you know, there was almost lost for words when that went in that game. You know, you look at the goals lost on Tuesday, you know, comfortable possession, you know, ball back to the goalkeeper, you know, and it's just those little moments where you just take your eye off the ball. You know, chasing the game at the end for the equaliser obviously let Portugal in for the second goal, but you know, even if I think back to the Portugal away game, you know, it was, you know, a ball inside the full back in the centre half. It's just moments where the concentration has just gone, and ultimately teams at that level punish you. Well, there will be change, I'm sure, soon. I mean, Stuart McLaren was in as interim head coach. Is this a squad that now needs a fresh head coach and something new to kind of take to their game? Yeah, I think so. You know, I think ultimately I think the team did improve under Shinty Keir. You know, I really think they did. You know, getting to that World Cup and performing as they did. You know, they've improved massively, but you know, they do need to take that next step. It's still a young group who, you know, have got lots to learn in front of them. They've also got a couple of experienced players in there, you know, the captain being one. But I think, you know, the sooner they get that manager in position, you know, they get the direction and, you know, the style of play that they want to play going forward, you know, the sooner the better for the next qualifying campaigns.
Great, Suzanne. Hopefully we will see that soon. As naar Bruin Roy program we voi sports sláinte corpora, ach cúteach a heb sláinte inchain. Had a shed in blina me gerig, ha club ik camanachd fioch na duge ara haring gu sláinte inchain, rút de haar frekkers ma eins na korsnoch in achge.
Hamútear camanachd t-seaghal a dhíist, gus taich áthas donneawing a féimachid. Leis a fandom a cast a touch buai, dh'ine ha strí les launch inching.
We decided as a staff team that would be a good idea to connect with each other a wee bit more and kind of focus not on the pandemic but on something really positive. So it was our CEO Derek who talked about let's getting active and we decided to try and set a target of, you know, how far can we go? Can we do it as a staff team? That's great. We're used to having an office and, you know, most of us being in close contact with each other, which we don't have anymore. So it brought the staff a wee bit more together by having this challenge. You know, everyone was pushing each other to at least be active every day. And then we were chatting about how can we get the rest of the Shinty community involved. So we decided to start up a Strava group and open it up and see if anyone else would want to come on our journey with us.
It was nice to be part of a wider project and certainly kind of pushes you on, especially I'd seen Katie being out there and managing to cover 5k with 3 kids in tow. So there's really no excuses not to be active each day. So yeah, it was great to have that little nudge out the door, especially with some of the weather through the month as well. So no, it was fantastic.
It brought a lot of people from the Shinty community together. I think originally we started, I think we were just going to go to Barcelona. We were trying to get the mileage to go there, but we ended up so many people engaged with the challenge that we decided to try and get there and back, which was brilliant. It was amazing to see, you know, everyone coming together, that sense of community that Shinty brings, and doing that kind of virtually through this challenge really helped. It helped us as a staff team and also engaged lots of people from the Shinty community, which was amazing.
Hai idhvítadah domútear camanachd leis nach rán spórs ach go mar fáirtí an Bheir an san bliana me dhéadach.
Shinty is such a community-based sport. You know, in my local area, it's not just about the team, it's about, you know, everybody's missing the Shinty, but they're missing the socialising that comes with that. You know, the whole community to come together to watch games, to support their team and to fundraise, you know, get together, everything like that. So I know a lot of clubs, and as one of the development staff, you know, we're encouraging clubs to have their training online so as they still get to come together as a team. But yeah, everyone in the whole community will be missing the sport.
I think particularly with the structure that Shinty provides, be it, you know, for the players, for the coaches, for the volunteers, regular training through the week on those set days, it really provides so much structure to the week. And then for the wider community at weekends coming together for games, it's been a significant change for everyone. And I think ways to keep connected are really, really important during this time, definitely.
It's more relevant, I guess, in rural areas where you don't really see anyone, and it's harder to connect with those people. So yeah, for Shinty, which is played in a lot of rural areas, it is really, really relevant. And, you know, I think the challenge helped get everybody on board, and it wasn't just players that engaged with it, you know, it was supporters as well, which was it was brilliant for us to see, because, you know, our target initially was, you know, get some of the players involved, but it's that wider community again coming on board to support the sport and and get involved.
Ha imimeach drochhuile I tachasan an camanachd, leis an buí go adaching na bevisse ans na coirsnach an beke.
Shinty has lost far too many people to, you know, mental health issues, and I think as a sport, as a governing body, we've been pushing to try and do more. So as our communities, our players, coaches, volunteers, everyone has that option to, first of all, connect, so talk to each other. I mean, all the communications that we've put out to our clubs are check in on your players, check that they're doing okay. You know, if you have any concerns about any particular people, come to us. We'll be able to help you. We'll be able to point you in the right direction of advice. We've given personal snippets and stories that people can relate to. And I think the hardest part is being open about it, because especially through the pandemic, everyone's had highs and lows. At the start of the pandemic last year, personally, I had an 8-week-old baby and I snapped my Achilles. So I was in a cast for nearly 3 months, and I was so low, and it's the Shinty community that brought me through. People saw what I did, people connected with me, people made sure I was okay, people got me to talk about it, and without them, you know, I wouldn't have had that positive outlook. So yeah, it's so important, and we as a development staff and as a governing body, we're trying to get more people to engage.
As Kate said, I think the teams and the clubs have done really well in terms of trying to keep connected. I think in terms of the wider the support that's out there, the introduction of sports chaplaincies and giving people different outlets, because speaking to their team might not always be their first port of call, might not always be the right thing for them. So I think it's really important that they know that there's you know, almost anonymised support advice through helplines that are out there, that if that's their preferred method of reaching out, they can do that. They know the sports chaplains are there, and as Katie said, Camanachd Association and their clubs can point them to a range of different support. But yeah, I think the teams are doing really well in terms of keeping people connected, and keeping those bonds there as well, so that communication is open.
Rúta an dáchasach, ha planning an áte is an camanachd a háiseach an bliana. Neach iad an bí tar cús fáilte.
Personally, I can't wait. I don't think I thought too much about it when I was on maternity leave, and then when I came back, we were kind of in lockdown. So, but seeing more and more people, especially recently, engaging in our challenge, I think it's trying to get that buzz back. We as an association, we've put out that our intentions are to have Shinty leagues back this year. So all clubs are aware of that. We've got all clubs registered and ready to go for this season, and everyone's excited to get back. And I think what the players wanted was certainty that there would be Shinty. And, you know, as a governing body, we've said, yes, absolutely. As soon as we can, we're going to go with it. It might not be what they're used to. It might not be the league structure that, you know, we've had in previous years, but we are doing absolutely everything that we can to make sure that we've got Shinty back this season. And that's kids Shinty, women's Shinty, and the unisex game as well. So personally, and as a governing body, we're really excited and really looking forward to getting back.
I think as a fan, as a spectator, as a family, it's a fantastic sport to be part of, and certainly thoroughly enjoy getting to different areas of the country and watching Shinty. And again, I think the Camanachd Association has done everything it can to prepare the clubs, making sure they're safe, and have everything in place so that hopefully as soon as the restrictions allow, you know, we'll see everyone back out there on the pitches, getting training and getting competitions back up and starting as soon as possible.
Suzanne, it's such a great initiative from the Shinty community, but we're seeing that across so many sports just to keep people engaged, because it's so hard.
Yeah, no, it is. I think, you know, particularly this time around, you know, I think they mentioned the weather, you know, it also adds to the, you know, the fact that you're in lockdown and there's not much you can do, but, you know, I think just what they're doing, you know, an opportunity for people to connect, you know, something to focus on, which is particularly important at this time, you know, personally speaking as well, you know, my own work are doing a lot to do with that as well, you know, keeping everybody engaged during this, you know, difficult time that we're going through.
Well, I think that's the thing. We probably take it for granted in central Scotland and in the bigger cities in Scotland that it's connecting to people is so easy, it's so accessible. But in these rural areas, it's hard. You do need to do much more to actually keep in touch and make sure that everyone's okay. Yeah,
I think that's the point, just making sure everyone's okay. You know, everybody's been affected by the pandemic in, you know, different ways. And I think as much as you can do to, you know, stay together, you know, have that call or VC call with someone, you know, just to check in and make sure they're all right is vitally important. Because as they did mention in their sport, it gives so much structure. I mean, during the week you're training multiple times a week, you've got your games at the weekend, you're with so many like-minded people who all share the same passion. And right now, people haven't had that for almost a year. Yeah. You know, I think when you take it away through choice, you know, I did it through choice, which was hard, but to have it taken away not through choice is, you know, it must be even harder. You know, I think a team, you know, gives so much structure, but it's also, you know, it becomes like your second family almost. You know, you're there so much through the week. You know, you rely on these people not just as teammates, but friends as well. You know, particularly as well for the spectators and the volunteers that they mentioned. It's a big part of their life as well. You know, and they'll all be desperate just to get it back in whatever form, you know, it may be. It is going to be different from how it was in the past, but, you know, anything is better than nothing right now. Well, that's the thing. So many different sports and so many teams, they do care so much about mental health, and it is just kind of keeping people going throughout this. Yeah, 100%. You know, it is something that, you know, I think every workplace needs to, you know, focus on just now. Again, speaking of my own work, you know, we have mental health first aiders. You know, it's vitally important that you give people that opportunity to speak if they need to speak. Yeah, and the more that can be done to help people, the better. But hopefully with some positive news at the end there, and as we're hearing now, I mean, better days are hopefully coming, and hopefully sport will return soon. Yeah, 100%. You know, I think there is that bit of light hopefully at the end of the tunnel, you know, and it'll be great just to see, you know, sport to return, you know, whatever the sport may be for everyone. Great, thank you.
Stochanachael Shivjolach ar an Niamh Junner, ach haig ar a hen santel san spors eiche karate. Hashini ar a vi brunri Niamh, gus barak feidemach min spors agus na h-amasan eiche.
I'm Niamh, I'm 19. I compete in karate for the Scotland national team. Currently just reached world #1 in my category. The world bronze medalist for under 18 plus 59, and I recently, well, last year now because of COVID, I won silver in the under 21 European Championships in plus 68.
Han Niamh Junner iad ennim a chosnig I héin an the sùil karate, le tálrút an sóirite iad a Cluinnidh. Hain dochas lys an sirfaseiche gefai karate barach aniachig agus tullach etiquette an the dh'Alba.
Oh no, definitely, like always looking for like sponsorship or any sort of financial help. I've managed to like gain a kit sponsor, but it's just, it's so hard with like trying to juggle uni, part-time job, and then obviously travelling all over the world. It's really difficult. There's people I've seen who are very, very talented and they just can't afford to go to all the competitions. There's ranking competitions as well to qualify for, like, obviously like for Olympics, and to compete for the national team you need to build a CV. So you need to go to these competitions and win to show that you're good enough to go. And I've seen people who can't afford to go to these competitions, so it's definitely, there's tons of people in every sport, I think, that fall through the cracks.
Get a high colloch gyda karate spors au giano lechthei. Faranula she spors au giano mar farche skipper. Rwyt can ha Niamh crutchin a ha iddi kutrma ki. Let's a service called dh'Alba.
Oh, definitely. Like when you go away, you're obviously there as a team. You're all competing in your individual categories like age and weight. But no, the team is absolutely phenomenal when you're fighting on the tatami you can hear everybody shouting your name and shouting Scotland, and all the hooters are going. Like, the atmosphere is honestly great. It's unbelievable to say that you've represented your country in a sport. It's honestly a dream come true. When I was younger, I've always wanted to represent Scotland at something. I didn't know what it was going to be, but to stand up on the mat with the Scotland badge on your chest and competing for your country, it's absolutely mind-blowing.
Ha Niamh na sár éisiamplar go bhfuil obair cruaigh agus dh'Alba có cútarmach an na spárs, agus dh'ídach ó hiún bec an bhlíonighin, charáide tógáil buin nó a bunacha coarpasin. Ach an nuair sin, hána go thula sí an bhí chéile.
I won bronze at the World Championships in Chile and Santiago in 2019 in the junior category. That was unbelievable. We were in the middle of a lockdown in Santiago, so the full squad couldn't come to celebrate with us. But me and my teammate Jacob, we both won bronze, so we walked back in the hotel and everyone was there screaming and shouting, and it was, honestly, the experience was amazing. And then after that, in the February last year, I won silver at the under-21 Europeans in the under-21 category, and I got to walk out with my name being shouted out, everyone screaming. There was only me and my competitor on the match in the final. It was a big finals event. The spotlights were on, the cameras were on you, so it was a really surreal experience.
Chará a bunacha coarpasin nó buin go leorthaí. Ag is 8 blindíag ba níomhid inimeachach ag adamh hunn sa dúil sa roimhe. Urim, the lay.
Well, I'm always keeping an eye on the rankings. They obviously update depending on the competitions, but with COVID and stuff, they kind of just went to a sort of standstill. Like, the points were there, and then I usually check the update monthly. So when we were coming to the end of 2020, there was a chance I could get there, but I wasn't really that hopeful. And I was just on checking one day, and I dropped my phone, and I was like, oh my God, I've hit #1. And then I just couldn't really believe it, to be honest. All my idols that I've looked up to have been world #1. So to actually be in the spot and up there, like your name's in bold, your picture's big on the ranking, saying you're world #1, it's unbelievable.
A siúigiad inimeachach ag adamh hunn sa dúil na patraí na bhain dú. Féimi Niamh inis na h-amasan eich go áireachach an cóiríon bbliana agus na saoitiúidir cúteach. Rútagan a haiad bhírin me dhé.
I didn't really expect to hit it so young in the category. So under 21, you compete until you're 20. So I hit it when I was still 18. So obviously that was kind of my goal for the end of the category, to leave and go to senior. But hopefully world and European champion would be great. And obviously I'm now able to compete at senior level. So that's just 18 and above. So trying to medal there, get in with the seniors, starting to rise up the ranks there and starting to get noticed, and just really performing at all levels and getting my name out there. Like, the experience level of seniors is unbelievable. Each category you go up, it obviously gets much harder, but as soon as you hit 18 and you're competing with the seniors, they've been around the block. Like, you're competing with people who've been competing at this level for 7-8 years, so tactically they're at the top of their game, and mentally they're so hard to break. So definitely that's going to be my toughest challenge, is just competing against their experience. And physically I'll be as fit as them and probably as fast and as strong, but mentally and tactically is where I'm going to have to try and improve my karate sort of game.
Ha Niamh taingal me na thula sí na karate the hortí. Agus haid crutching go suúring pár t-saoghal an na spáir san bí, buai bha an an Bheir.
So many skills. Respect for everybody around me, discipline, commitment, definitely resilience. That's probably a really, really big one. So when I'm going through anything like exam results, getting into uni, and hit downfalls in my life, I just know how to bounce back really quickly, because in your sport you're up and down like a roller coaster. And it's so good for mental health, especially nowadays. It's exercise and karate has definitely kept me on the straight and narrow. It's given me a focus. And I think sport does that just in general for everybody, no matter whether it's cycling, football, karate. But the endorphins that you release during exercise, I always feel amazing after a train, no matter when it is or where it is. It's definitely given me so much confidence as well for my mental health. I was always quite shy before I started competing and travelling abroad. The first time I travelled abroad independently, I was 14. Now, what 14-year-old would you send with a passport away in a foreign country? And I had no clue what I was doing, but it made me build so much confidence. But now I'm really confident, and it's given me so many life skills that I'll use every day.
It's so lovely hearing from Niamh and just how passionate she is about her sport, and I loved when she hit #1 and she found out on her phone and dropped it.
Yeah, no, it's really good to hear her story. You know, she speaks so well for someone her age. You know, and I think, you know, how she reacted to being world #1, you know, epitomises how, you know, humble she is. You know, that certainly came across. But, you know, huge potential to be hitting world #1 in that category, you know, at 18 years old. She's got so much to look forward to in front of her.
And like she was saying, she always had this dream to represent Scotland. I mean, you know what that feels like. You've been there yourself.
Yeah, you know, I think for myself, you know, when I was young, you know, you didn't really know of the Scotland women's team, you know, but as soon as, you know, it was something you were aware of and okay, you know, I could actually play for my country. You know, I think when you actually do that, it is, you know, such a proud moment for you, you know, a proud moment for your family, everyone who's helped you to get there, you know, and she hit the nail on the head there with, you know, her reaction to doing that. You know, it's just such a great feeling.
And like she also talks about coming through the ranks to represent Scotland. I mean, you also came through the ranks. Do you remember what it felt like when you got your first senior call-up?
Yeah, you know, I played for Scotland at, you know, under-16s level right through. You know, and I think sometimes you maybe just thought, oh, well, I'll move up to the 19s, I'll move up to the A squad, but, you know, it doesn't quite happen like that. You need to, you know, work really hard because, you know, the seniors are there to stay and you need to do enough to get in the door. But, you know, I remember being called up to my first camp, you know, and being so nervous. You know, you just think, oh my God, I'm with all these senior Scotland players, but, you know, welcomed, you know, with open arms and, you know, obviously went from strength to strength from there. And
then when you are at the top of your game and you're representing Scotland, is it a feeling like no other?
Yeah, you know, 100%. I think, you know, particularly there she touches on, you know, she might go out, you know, as an individual in her sport, but it's a team effort behind the scenes. And, you know, I think that is the same in football. You know, you're going out there as part of a team, but you're also going out there, you know, representing everybody who's helped you achieve what you've achieved in football, you know, whether that be previous coaches, your family, the support that you get from your work, etc. as well. You know, it's just such a huge achievement to reach the top level in your sport.
And that's the thing. I mean, Niamh also talks about all the benefits that come with it, and even when she was touching about mental health, which she spoke about previously, and she talks about the focus that her sport gives her.
Yeah, I think that's, you know, for any athlete, you know, whatever sport you're on, you have a focus, you know, you're determined to get there. You know, sometimes people out with it don't understand, you know, why you're up at whatever time you're up in the morning and why you're out to whatever time at night, you know, and with work in between, but it's that determination and desire to succeed and be the best in your sport.
Well, that's what she said near the end there, which was so nice. Respect, discipline, commitment and resilience. These are all skills that you learn from sport and they're just with you for life.
Yeah, no, they are. You know, I feel like that even when I'm, you know, doing my normal job. You know, the skills that I'm doing there that, you know, I know that if I wasn't part of a team, you know, or part of a sport, I would never have had. You know, I think it's something, you know, I'm a big advocate. Anybody should always be involved in sport, you know, whatever the level, because it certainly sets you up for life with loads of huge characteristics to take forward.
Well, it certainly does. Thank you so much, Suzanne. Well, sin airson program eile, ma hang for do Suzanne son vi colorrooms in studio. Ha si torschucah program gach seachking, smar sin jan cínseach gobel sivar lentil agus cúteach ham program megéire gacín BBC iPlayer. Cynnig go gra seo an program acah se, mar sin scilvanach fat is farsing agus cúma bor of a coed. Bydach chi spors for a nach na halbe, mar sin live and drast.